we think some of the most valuable real estate in the car is that, the data that you can collect as an OEM is legendary amounts of data. It's a lot more than someone's search history. But also the real estate in front of people's faces is probably a lot more valuable than the applications developed for that interface. So there's a combination of those combined with the privacy and what people are willing to give up, that there's a lot of money to be made in just the screen space in front of someone's head.
Brian, what's the thought at Microsoft, especially as it pertains to security?
Well, I think that the way it's been framed up, over the last couple of days and just in general in the marketplace is security around data that will determine, somebody's safety, life and death, versus something that can be monetized. Certainly you could, do that with the insurance companies, but I think those are different things. If somebody, like you said, hacks in data, then that causes harm to somebody. That data has a different categorization, I think, than versus data that is going to be used for selling advertising, products and services to determine whether somebody qualifies for, a lower cost car, lower cost insurance, or a free car, or whatever that might be. So I think you've got to categorize the data types, and you can't treat all data the same. And a lot of the data that we're talking about can be collected today. I can just bring my smartphone in the car. I can bring a tablet in the car, and the sensors that are on these devices, they're getting more and more powerful. It can mirror a lot of the data that you're going to collect from an OBD device or something else like that. And so I can do a lot of these things today. I don't have to wait until a manufacturer builds these systems in a car. So, the good news from that standpoint is that we can start experimenting before we go out and build factory lines to try to build new cars or change the experience. We can learn about it before we actually deploy it.
David Dimeo, we're down to the very end here of our time allotment, but what do you think at Ford Motor Company, at Ford Direct, are going to be two of the most valuable data streams that you can monetize?
Again, I always cringe when I think of monetization from, the pure, dollars for bytes kind of model, right? I think the benefit is really how do I use the data from the ability to actually personalize and understand. So I think as digital natives come on, they're already more sophisticated. They do a lot of research online. They're well educated and they're complex. And then so I think that connected car data allows a conversation with the individual so that we can be more succinct and on point. So think about a vehicle having roughly about 100 features, and then it's the paradox of choice, right? How can I evaluate multiple products and multiple features across cost of ownership and my lifestyle? Well, that's where I think is really interesting as an OEM, because then if I can get that data about your usage, and I can come back to you with an offer that says, based on how you use our products and potential offerings that we offer, whether it's special financing or service, worry-free maintenance packages and other elements, here's your package that's very personalized and how it affects you. So I think that's where it really gets, it changes the paradigm of consumer retail, and perhaps the way that they perceive the relationship between the car buying and ownership experience, and it will be less adversarial. I think if we get to that point, I think it's where it's a win. I don't think anybody has developed a good business plan where they can show the financial metrics to say an investment of $1 million or $100 million over here will generate, revenue uplift over there. And I think it almost will take a gut check, someone taking that bet, demonstrating the value to market, and then others will follow, like the OEMs typically do.
Raj, what's your research show? What would people really go and pay for?
So people are willing to essentially share data if they benefit out of it, right? So if you go back to a study, I don't know whether we can project that slide. So Progressive started usage-based insurance. And I think initially there was concern about, okay, I don't want to know people know how I drive. But it's interesting because people are willing to share data because they get to gain from that, right? Same with from an OEM standpoint, if you can build better products, and the interesting thing is they think if the dealership can provide a better service, then they're willing to share. I mean, that seems to be top of the category, right? So it's all about how people get educated on how this data is valuable, rather than just taking the most pessimist approach that hell will break loose if the data is shared and left it open, right? So it's perception change, which I think the OEM plays a big role to change that perception.
John Correa, if you were doing a startup, where would you go and stick your neck out?
Oh, I think about 1 to 3% of a OEM's revenues is in warranty expense, and I think various studies have shown like 30% potential, conservatively reduction by connecting cars and harvesting that data to improve quality. Every step of the problem-solving process, whether you're at Ford and you call it 8D or GM and you call it 5-phase, is improved by connectivity and by harvesting that data to find problems faster, get to the root cause faster, and even fix the problem over the air. So tremendous opportunity there and just one of the value streams.
Brian, is Microsoft looking at any of this, and where might it place its chips?
Well, as you know, Microsoft's a big company, so we've got a lot of different things going on, everything from Azure to the Xbox to mobile devices. So we're playing in a lot of different spaces. I think what we're doing is looking at how we can help our customers. So on the enterprise side, our customers there, and on the consumer side, what more can we do with them? So I think, we've got some pretty exciting things going on with HoloLens and next generation computing platforms. So the good news is there's a lot of opportunities to explore.
And Mike Nielsen, same thing. Cisco looking at any of this? And have you found out anything at the show that might lead you to shape your strategy?
It's funny because Cisco, because we're Cisco, we tend to change terminology that just a little bit to try to lead a market. And we put out this concept of Internet of Everything, right? Which is Internet of Things plus. And we joke, a couple of us engineers, because we joke that it's star. It is everything to everything. It's business and process and people and machines. Everything here is about machines and connectivity. And we've got, so I'm not going to say that Cisco's dedicating all of its eggs into the connected vehicle segment, but everything we're doing right now is around thing-based connectivity, thing-based security, and like the next 5 or 10 years with effectively adding something like 75 billion new machines that are going to be network connected in some capacity. This group is going to lead that effort because you're right on the forefront from security to make sure the car doesn't crash, and also just from the data privacy, everything else. But the way that people are going to interact with that is going to change fundamentally. Just completely fundamentally. It's not just a belief that Cisco holds. It's just we're seeing an entire generation now interact with technology as digital natives that we just have not seen before.
Look, we've hit our time limit here. We could go on a whole lot more. We've barely scratched the surface. I find this conference very interesting, and especially what you've all been talking about, massive opportunity. Disruption, you betcha, but massive opportunity as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, a warm round of applause for Raj Paul, David Dimeo, Brian Biniak, Mike Nielsen, and John Correa. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.